I mean, Harris is probably the most left-leaning Democratic candidate in a long time. I assume you just mean, like, who won the primary, as opposed to one that would include Bernie Sanders. But in European parliamentary politics, she would fit in perfectly with our stinky sockdam parties. I mean, maybe? Europe really isn't that left-leaning, you know? The whole, like, Bernie Sanders would be a moderate politician in any European country has always been bullshit. He would be pretty far left in basically any, you know, in a comparable position in any European country. Yeah, Europe's pretty racist. I don't think they would let her be president in any European country. Has Bernie advocated to decommodify housing? No, nobody wants to decommodify housing. Nobody's cool. How far left is AOC? Stop thinking in people. Stop thinking in terms of people, okay? Stop thinking that. What does this person think? What does that person think? The only person who you know how they think is you. You're alone. You'll never be able to connect to another person's mind. It's over. You were born alone and you'll die alone. Stop obsessing over what other people are, what they think, okay? What can you do? What is your life? What does AOC think? Who cares? I don't think about her. You want labels to stamp onto everything. What is this? There is no permanence. The atoms that made you up at the beginning of this sentence are different from the atoms that made you up now. This was Bernie Sanders' policy on housing. End the housing crisis by investing $2.5 trillion to build nearly 10 million permanently affordable housing units, protect tenants by implementing a national rent control standard, just cause requirement for evictions, ensuring the right to counsel on housing disputes, make rent affordable, making Section 8 vouchers available to all eligible families without a waitlist, strengthen the Fair Housing Act, combat gentrification, exclusionary zoning, segregation, speculation, and homelessness, and ensure fair housing for all. Revitalize public housing by investing $70 billion to repair, decarbonize, and build new public housing. That'd be nice. I don't understand how decommodification could work. The government owns all land, which it already does, effectively, eminent domain, and everything built on top of that land, that is residential housing, is allocated to regional and federal databases concerning, like, available housing. Are there people who live there, or is it empty? And if you want a house, you apply to a bureau, and you get that house for free. If you have issues with your house, you go to the local Bureau of Housing Management, and the government does whatever you need to do for you. It's kind of like having a landlord, except you pay nothing. And rather than your income determining where you can live, there are other factors like relative need. Are you a student at this school? Then you should probably get housing pretty close to the school. Do you work over here? Do you have like a big family? Well, then maybe you should get a bigger house. Sounds like Soviet Union. I mean, you're free to look up what rent was in the Soviet Union. You know, there were definitely some defensible elements of their housing policy. But yes, no, I do fully believe in this. I don't think you can effectively commodify a system where everyone needs something. There is a finite amount of it, both in terms of absolute quantity and in distribution regionally. You know, it's got like an inelastic demand. I think there are serious issues with commodification of housing. How large should houses be? 1 cubic foot per house. You'll fit. If you already live somewhere, do you get to keep living there? No. They move people every day. You always have to have like a little bindle on the end of a stick, like a polka dot bindle. And every day the government is like, you now live downtown. You now live out here. You now live over there. And you have to always move around every day. All the city streets are just people with bindles on sticks walking around dejectedly. Yeah, you have to wear a clown nose too, exactly. There would be single-family homes, Jetfire 911. I don't know why there wouldn't be. Would I be allowed to choose where I live with decommod? Oh, why are you acting like I've made the policy? I'm just describing the basic tenets of it. Sure, you could imagine a system in which you have a choice, and you could imagine a system in which you don't have a choice. I would prefer a system in which you do have a choice. Why would I not? It is worth noting that right now, you guys basically already don't get a choice where you live. You want to move to a city, you open up Zillow. There are like 100 properties that are in your price range, and after you look through all of them, only 2 of them are even remotely viable. And then you look at the 2 of them, and one of them is like currently undergoing renovations, and you met with the landlord while they were supervising them, and the landlord looked like a sleaze. So you go with the second one, even though you're pretty sure there's black mold growing behind the tiles in the bathroom, and then you live there now. Like, it's not as though the current system for housing allocation is one where you have a bounty of free choice, you know? I don't want to live in a city. That's great. No, you will live in a city. Are you ready for the new world order? No more human rights or borders. Yes, goose person, you can bring a little kitty cat. There must be a good policy for affordable housing that can exist in a liberal economy. Sure, but you're always fighting uphill against a fundamental economic truth, which is the natural inequity of private housing ownership. If they can be privately bought and sold, they can be acquired, they can be speculated on. Housing will always be a viable speculation market as long as they can be privatized, because you cannot build an infinite number of houses, you know? Everyone needs them, and some areas are more desirable than others. A condo downtown might potentially be worth an ungodly amount of money to the right person, so speculation is inevitable. And once you get the speculators, now you can put price caps on the speculation, sure, but then you run into other fundamental problems, which is like, where's the price cap and how do you determine it? How do you set like a natural market cap on what the price should be for any given house in any given area? Different houses can cost different amounts to, like, an incredibly wide range of variables can alter how much you think a house is worth. How does the government determine that? And is it possible for people to skirt around those rules or, you know, cause trouble within their boundary? Also, if you set the price cap too low, people are no longer making any money on speculation, which means that there's no longer like any real way to incentivize housing construction because people aren't making enough money on the process of like buying, selling, renovating, reselling, whatever else. And then you've got, oh man, it's a whole thing, folks. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Vaush, you said it yourself. I don't care what you want. Why would we care where people want to live in your system when we've already decided? What do you mean we? It's the you apply to a government office when we've already decided people's wants are secondary to their needs. People's wants are secondary to their needs, but what you need is a house. So that need is fulfilled. You apply. What do you mean? What about what I said implied that the government would be like, you are going to live here. We wish to build a population density of da 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 in this area. You are going to live here. Like what did I say that implied that this was some like 1984 dystopia shit? There are already plenty of systems that you know all land is already owned by the government, right? Like when you own land, you have a deed, you're still under the purview of the laws of the government apply to your own private house and privately owned land. You're basically just renting it from the government. You pay property taxes. It's already all controlled by the government. That's what a government is. That's what a nation state is. Like you're not, do you really think that like you couldn't just go to the government office and be like, I would like a house in this rural area, smile. Like, why wouldn't they say yes? No, you will go and live downtown next to the taco place and the bodegas. Why? Why would they do that? Why would some random like DMV worker do that? You know? They're just chilling, man. Dude, they just are waiting for their lunch break. You know? You can go over there and be like, yeah, I'd like kind of like, you know, a little bit of a larger farmhouse in this rural area. Yeah, that place looks nice. And they're like, no, you will eat the bugs. Why would they do that? Why do they care? This is like one level removed from the 15-minute city paranoia that conservatives do, where they're like, if the government builds infrastructure that allows people to walk around their neighborhood, that means the government will force you to stay in that neighborhood. Why? Why would they do that? At all? Why would they ever do that? Why? You know? I mean, if you want to talk about like the institutions that will deny you housing based on arbitrary rules that you're not familiar with, talk to a bank. Try to get a loan, you know? All the problems that you think exist in my proposed system already exist now, except they cost a lot more to navigate. I agree with you like 100%, but just feeling out edge cases, what prevents New York City from having a massive influx? As opposed to right now where it doesn't? Are you implying that New York City right now under the current market system isn't having a massive influx? There's a certain amount of housing. If there's no more housing available in New York City, you don't get to live in New York City. I mean, there's not like, that's how they handle it. They're like, you're like, I would like to live in Manhattan, please. And the person at the office is like, no, sorry. There's no housing there. Sorry. And then that's it. Like, you know, not much you can do about that. If there's no housing, there's no housing. Can't really fix that, you know. I mean, you could build more housing, but it's Manhattan. I mean, we're kind of running up against the limit there on how many, you know. I'm not saying they do, but at some point, someone's going to be told they can't move where they want to live. Yeah, that happens every day to millions of people right now. Because they can't secure a loan or there's no place they can afford in the city. That already happens. What if that happens to every city who gets to go to Oklahoma? That already happens. You're describing like rent prices are massive in like most big cities, especially coast. Like you're describing like the status quo right now, but in the current system, people go bankrupt trying to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like it's already like that. What would incentivize them to make better than the bare minimum of housing quality? I mean, whether or not people... I mean, this is like fundamentally just a question of, will decommodified industries still produce things of quality? And so far, the answer we have is yes. The United States Postal Service does a good job delivering packages and managing their affairs, even though there's no financial incentive for them to do so, you know? Also, the construction of these houses wouldn't necessarily be the government. They would be paying construction companies to do it. It's just the government would be the one like directing zoning policy and paying for it, you know? But if the government is paying construction companies to build houses and the people building the houses are doing a bad job, the people who are then moved into those houses are going to be like, wow, these houses are shit. I am upset and will vote accordingly. Which, again, right now in America today, construction companies are building shit houses. Like, there are a lot of craftsman-style houses that are getting erected in these massive, like, suburban areas out in the middle of, like, in the outskirts of Las Vegas or Albuquerque or whatever. And then you look at the construction, and it's dog shit. Those houses aren't going to last a single century. They'd be lucky to last half a century. And, like, yeah, people just move. You know why? Because it costs less money for them to build it that way. Once again, an issue kind of specific to our, you know, like, I'm just saying... I watched this home inspector on YouTube and it's in Arizona. Yeah, one of the reasons why insurance costs are going up and or insurance companies aren't providing anything in Florida anymore is because there are a lot of Florida homes in hurricane territory that are built out of like cardboard. Like this is a state that gets hit with hurricanes every year. And a lot of those houses you can actually pull apart very easily with a crowbar. It's insane, you know? People buy, like, all I'm saying is one of the reasons I like talking about this housing decommodification thing is because it encourages you to think critically about the problems with our system as it exists now. Because a lot of people are asking me like, well, what about this problem? And the problem they're referring to already exists now, you know? But people don't think about it that way, right? What if the government restricts your ability to move? What if there's like, no, they won't move you into the city? We already have that problem. It's called, it costs too much, you know? It's like, that's already a thing. And I think that's why it's important to think about it critically and kind of do the compare and contrast a little bit. Anyway, God willing, one of these days, but you know, I understand. I don't think Kamala Harris is going to run out there with this plan, like, you know, apropos of nothing. I'm just saying it's important to think about it. It's important to think about it. I want to know, under decommodification, how does local prioritization happen? I'm not sure what you mean. Like, how would the government consider the factors of a person's situation and be like, you deserve to be here more? I mean, if you work in an area or you go to school in an area, if you have a larger family size, so you need a larger house, like that kind of stuff, right? Japan does this, but good, actually. Oh yeah, one of the reasons why Tokyo is a craftsman's and artisans' dream city is because housing prices are really low because the Japanese government keeps building out new housing in the outskirts of Tokyo. And Tokyo is already like a bajillion square miles, you know? They keep building. And because they keep building, and also because the population hasn't exactly been exploding in Japan, housing costs are pretty low. And because they're low, people can afford to like sleep in the bedroom above their like, you know, craftsman shop or whatever. And that's why if you go to Tokyo, there's 50 trillion shops and it's like, yeah, look at this denim that we dyed ourselves, or look at these wooden statues we carved in home. You don't need like a factory or whatever. They just do it there. It's pretty cool. Oh, yeah.
Well, what a coincidence. I'm back here the day after one of the homeowners sent me this video clip. And the builder was like, oh, that's normal. So they said, hey, what do I do for help? And I said, well, what a coincidence. The person shouting was the neighbor of this home. Let's see if they install these water heaters correctly and safely. Nope.
Oh my God.
Nice. We got the duct resting against the gas furnace vent. You can save a lot of money using nails to secure gas lines. Look, the laundry has a GFCI sticker. But it's not GFCI. Pity. I'll show you pity. That black line is the center, and it's less than 15. But don't worry. Good thing our tax money is paying for these building inspectors. And this wall's so crooked, that gap is half an inch. You can see how the mirror's behind the counter on this side. Not on this side. Because if you squint,
oh my God.
Well, what a coincidence.
So more urbanization then? Yeah. His whole channel's like that. Yeah. The state of like modern construction is insanely bad. Yeah. How would people who currently own houses be affected by the process? I mean, you'd probably get compensated for the value of the house, or at least a portion of it, but you would be allowed to continue living there as a kind of like legacy policy, right? That would make sense to me. Like, we're doing decommodification. Your house is now government property, but you've already lived there, you know? That was your house, so we're going to let you stay there. Unless there's some egregious reason why you couldn't. I don't know, some giant mansion in an area that could otherwise house 100 people in an apartment building, but yeah, stuff like that. Or like it's your second or third house. Oh yeah, you ain't getting 2 or 3 houses. You're not. I don't know about that. Don't know about that. Well, anyway, a little bit grim. Sorry, how'd we get on this? Will I still be allowed to build a dungeon in my home? We'll be king positive in the communist future, okay? People are really weird about owning property. I don't get the idea of this is mine forever. Yeah, it's just something that we're socialized into very, very heavily these days. It didn't used to be the case. It's very modern, you know? Like, it wasn't like that in the feudal days. Serfs didn't own their land. The lord did. Not that I'm defending lord ownership or anything. You go back further and further, and it's like usually there was some guild or some protectorate or some emperor or king or whatever, you know, the idea of everyone personally owning their own thing. What I think we're building towards is systems of like more and more sort of I don't know, personalization with ownership, but I think we can take one step removed and then kind of remind ourselves that this is all the common good to a large extent. I don't think parks should be owned by private individuals, you know, I think they should be enjoyed by people generally. I think the world is better when we accept that. But if you try to explain a park now to a person in America, if we didn't have parks already, I think you would sound like an insane communist. What if the government bought out land, then paid to maintain the land and beautify it, and anyone could go on it no matter what? Totally open, you can just go on it, whatever, you know? Or libraries, yeah, like what if the government had a building where you could just get media, books, whatever you wanted, you can go there, and then like you never paid for it and it's all totally chill. It's like, oh wow, that sounds like pie in the sky liberal, not even liberal, like socialist bullshit. It's like, yeah, well, we got used to it. You agree ownership doesn't have value in itself, right? Of course. There's no innate value in ownership. In like and ownership is a legal contract, you know. An arbitrary designation. It doesn't reflect the material relationship between you and the thing. You know, if you have it and you can use it, you have it and you can use it. I ask you, would a park be better to you if you owned it privately? Like, if there's a park near your house and you go to that park and you play with your kids and you have a good time there and you sunbathe and everything, does your relationship to that park materially change or improve if you owned it personally? The only thing you could do is keep other people off of it. And maybe you think that would make your experience with it better, but it would come at the cost of others. Vaush describing a lawn. Yeah, the thing that I hate. Fewer lawns, more parks. You can keep a garden.